Hello there. I'm here to analyze, to look at the debate between Tour and Dave Farina. I will give my opinion on it, and I want to start with the opening of Dr. Tour. So, uh, let's begin. Do not lose any time on it. I can tell that someone is already in the chat. So, hello there. I'll present. Okay. So, tell me if you can hear it just fine. I will start and I will stop whenever it's needed to.
Before we get started, I want to do something. I've got a gift for Mr. Farina. Now, I was thinking, what could I get such an amazing person? And I've got you something that I am sure you do not have. This is something called laser-induced graphene. It was a process we developed in 2013 where a laser can hit any surface that's made out of carbon, and in this case, it's paper. And the laser can write a pattern. So what you're going to look at is paper that has been converted into carbon. The carbohydrates have been converted into graphene through the laser action. And so here's what we've got for you. Oh,
it's a nice gesture, thank you. Is it on? Thanks very much.
So, first of all, here Tour was quite smart. Why? Because it's giving Farina a gift, and it looked like a nice guy, a very nice guy, right? Kinda. He is basically, and if you listen carefully, you can hear people laughing at Dave. Is basically insulting him in a very nice and polite way. Why it's important? Because when you do so, you can pass for the nice guy and piss off your opponent at the same time. And I think that Tour knew very well was what he was doing, and he was very very happy to do so. Basically, it's rubbing to the face of Dave. Yes, I'm a very important guy. Here, I can produce this artifact for you, and you cannot. Also, I think that Tour knew what Dave was about to do, and he was ready for it. I give you a gift, so I'm the nice guy, and you, as soon you start to insult me, you will be not a very nice guy. So very clever from Tour. Well done, and let's keep going. Now it does start the actual presentation. Oh, first of all, look at the board. It's already prepared with the points of Tour, and it's quite apparent that he's playing at his place. Basically, it's playing home. So yeah, very clever. Well done, Tour. Even though I disagree with everything, and I will comment on it, but very well played. Very well played, sir.
So I have 10 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Farina, as my guest, welcome to Rice University. Unlike Mr. Farina, I have never been in a debate before. So if it appears that I am not a skilled debater, it's an accurate assessment. A major hurdle for the origin of life research is the origin
I do disagree. You are very good at it. Much more than Dave, it seems.
and persistence of enantiopure molecules. The building blocks of the building blocks, as I call
Whoa, that's good. The enantiomers and the homochirality problem. I will get to it in a little bit, and that's quite something I want to talk about a lot, actually.
them. Enantiopurity means that one mirror image of a molecule prevails to the exclusion of the other. This includes 19 of the 20 amino acids, the monomeric sugars, the nucleotides, and the lipids. But for the sake of getting through, I am conceding tonight to my opponent all those small molecules in 100% enantiomeric purity. They are yours. I concede them to you for the sake of time. So let's address other issues.
Well, good. We have that. Why? Because we can get to homochirality and we have papers for it. That's quite something, isn't it? Let's see where it's going.
Issues tonight, since my concession has been granted and there's still much more ground to cover. I am here defining clueless. Oh, this has gone off. All right. Hold the time a second for me while I log back in here.
Wonderful. That's quite a joke, isn't it?
Okay, they had to have me use this one because of the way the feeds are working. So when this logs back in. Okay, but I'll continue now, in any case. I'm here defining clueless in the context of my typical usage. Let me open up my stuff. Got to do it. I mean, this is just life, you know. I teach in this room, so I'm
Look at that. This is life. It's not like you can do it on accident. Very clever in a room full of people supporting you. Yeah, as I said, that's fair. You are doing a debate. If you can piss off your opponent, it's quite a good tactic to do so, especially if you do it in this way. So, in a clever way, without insults, just with these clever devices. As for now, I do not agree on the homochirality problem, but as you can see, there is basically no science as for now, and we are in his presentation. He did spend a little bit of his presentation on these jokes. Why? If you do have a very strong case, why do not talk about chemistry? Um, because there is not so much you can tell, in my opinion. Uh, he will get to chemistry in a very clever way. I got something prepared for you all. So let's get on to business.
used to this. This just happens. Okay. So I'm defining clueless in the context of my typical usage. We cannot solve any of the 5 criteria needed to make a living cell. None of these can be solved. Mr. Farina has complained that I am a religious man. I'm not just religious, I'm deeply religious. Or as he puts it, I'm a quote, super, super Jesus guy, unquote. Well, that's a label.
Okay, jokes aside, those are is 5 points. So, five criteria needed for a valid hypothesis. Okay, fair. Polypeptides. Yeah, we can somewhat get that. RNA, we have some good hypotheses on that. Carbohydrates, I think they are not particularly a problem. I do not know why they are there. Uh, Information, I do hate that one. Why you are talking about information? Define information for me. When we are talking about chemistry, information does not have a clear definition. What do you mean with information? Because you can assemble those molecules in various ways, and as life do, selection will select the ones that worked. Of course, until you do not have life, you will not have natural selection, but you can have selection nonetheless. We can observe that, so it's not like it's just mere chance. It's important to remember that. Four, and then five. Assembly of the all above components into internet. Okay, a cell. Why? That's a good one. Why you do need a cell? You can have organisms that are alive or close to be, and without a cell. It's not something you need, and it's something that I would pointed out if was Dave Farina. Uh, as for now, most living things do have cells, but it's not a criteria needed to be alive to have a cell. Cells work more than fine, but it's not like you need one to be alive. You can have something else. Just think things like viruses. And you can tell me that viruses need living beings to reproduce. It's true, but they are still somewhat alive and they do not have cells. And so the fifth criteria, it's completely bogus. It's worth nothing, in my opinion. But life without a cell does exist.
That I gladly embrace, and I believe that the Bible is God's word. I never appeal to that book of authority in my academic lectures or scientific discussions. Never, unless specifically asked about my religious convictions, like in a church or a religious podcast. I never couple those to my scientific criticisms of the origin of life research. I will not appeal to the Bible, to God, to miracles, to Jesus, to God of the gaps tonight. Often, origin of life researchers have a time of the gaps appeal, where they will say something to the effect, over millions of years, such and such happened. Those bedtime stories that are devoid of any precise chemistry may as well start with, once upon a time.
Again, we say we. I use we, but I'm not a scientist. Uh, Million and billions of years, because we do know that the planet is that old. It's not like we are just saying once upon a time. We do have proof of life until a certain period, so it's not like we are just guessing. Of course, abiogenesis is a very tough nut to crack, because it's not like chemical process will fossilize. So we can just resort to hypothesis. It's not like we will be able to find fossil evidence for it.
I hope that my opponent will likewise not appeal to ill-defined time of the gaps arguments, and that he'll stay strictly on the scientific data, the data. As for me, I will stick to the data. The topic tonight is not about me, it's whether there is a valid hypothesis to make a living cell on a mindless early Earth. In discussing scientific data, it's not a matter of deception or lies. It is a matter of data interpretation. That happens all the time in science. It's hard to interpret the scientific literature data. And as I do with my graduate students, we learn from each other. They from me and I from them. I plan to address Mr. Farina as I would a graduate student seeking to learn from him tonight.
So it's all about the data, and in his open presentation, as for now, basically he gave no data at all. More or less, we are at 1/3 of his presentation, and he got no data at all. Tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I do not see any data. He asked for it, but he, as for now, is giving nothing.
The textbook definition for the characteristics of life is responsiveness to the environment, growth and change, ability to reproduce, having metabolism and breathe, maintaining homeostasis, and being made of cell.
Wrong. You can be alive without a cell, so no cell required for the first instances of life, and homeostasis, it's a cell thing. So, yeah, for the first form of lives, no, I do not think it's a given. Not at all. It's pretty important, actually.
Cells and passing traits onto offspring. A valid hypothesis is one in which there is experimental evidence substantiating the proposed science. An invalid hypothesis is one in which there is no way to substantiate the proposed science. For example, my guest arrived to Houston from Los Angeles. A valid hypothesis would be that he flew to Houston on a commercial aircraft.
So, oh, hello there. Nice to see you. How is going? I hope everything is fine. I'm looking at this debate. I'm halfway there, so not almost over, but we are getting there. If you do not know what this debate is all about, is about abiogenesis, and this person, Dr. James Tour, is a creationist, one of the few creationists with a PhD. So, oh, sorry. Nice to see you, really. I think I know who you are. So, wonderful cat. Ah, okay. So you can understand me. You need for me to speak in Italian, too. It's a student of mine. I'm glad to see you. Sono felice di vederti. Dimmi se preferisci che parlo in italiano o in inglese. Lo stream sarebbe in inglese. Sto parlando di questo signore che è un ricercatore, un creazionista in realtà, e praticamente è un esperto sull'origine della vita, cioè non è un esperto in realtà, dice un sacco di cose che non sono esattamente giuste, e sto distruggendo piano piano tutti i suoi punti, perché non sono d'accordo su quello che sta dicendo. Comunque, se ti serve qualcosa, sono qua. No.
That is a valid hypothesis because we can experimentally test the efficacy of commercial air travel. An invalid hypothesis would be that he drove here in a single molecule nanocar. Though that statement might be true, it is an invalid hypothesis since we have no experimental evidence for its validity. Nobody was present at life's origin, so we will never really know how life originated. But
Partially true, but we could still get a lot of information about this kind of things. So if we get a pathway to life, we could say that's possible. So it's not like we were not there, so it's impossible to know. I disagree with him completely.
But that's not what we're seeking to answer tonight. What we're seeking is an experimentally valid, verifiable hypothesis as to how life might have originated on an early Earth. We must see the origin of life research data, not their unsubstantiated claims, even if those claims are written in their research papers. Mr. Farina, please show us their data. Show their data. My contention remains the same. One day I presume that we will have a valid hypothesis upon which life might have originated. But as of today, we do not.
Maybe we will have one, so we are getting there. I know that Tour did hesitate to answer to some of David Dreamer's work, so I think he knows that we are getting close and is sweating a lot over it. Very telling, if you ask me, whatever is telling now.
And with each passing year, the cellular target that we must disclose becomes harder to reach due to the increased realization of its minimal complexity. A study in the Journal of Pragmatics in 2021 considered the trend of hyperbole in scientific publications. The authors, Highland and Jiang, wrote, quote, "We trace the use of
So we start, first of all, data. Where is the data? Right now is getting on basically a rant all about people telling things. And I will show things or two after I am finished with his presentation. I will play it full because I do not want to anyone to think that I'm hiding something. So I will play it full without hiding anything. But I have to say that's quite a rant from Dr. Tour, and I think it's not a very good point.
400 hyping words which seek to promote, embellish, or exaggerate aspects of research papers. Our results show a massive increase in these items, and increases are most marked in the hard sciences, unquote. So while overblown statements are occurring in all fields, origin of life takes the cake. My opponent's favorite...
Why? How can you tell that? We... Ciao Donatella, sto parlando in inglese, ma qualsiasi cosa chiedimi. Sto facendo una recensione di questo dibattito e felicissimo di vederti. C'è in chat anche un mio alunno in realtà. E niente, qualsiasi cosa sono qua. So uh,
Expert Professor Lee Cronin said in 2011 that he'd probably create life in his lab in 2 years. He did not. Another, whom he often cites, Professor Jack Sostek, then at Harvard, now at the University of Chicago, said in 2014 that he'd create life in his lab in 3 to 5 years. He did not. Professor Dimitar Sesalov from Harvard University said in 2014 that life would be created in the lab in 5 years. It did not happen, not even close. Prebiotically relevant means that we are.
so what you are not talking about, David Dreamer? He got pretty close, did he? But you are not telling that, do you?
Restricted to materials, procedures, and conditions that might have been available on an early Earth. These are the five criteria. These are the five criteria that have to be experimentally addressed in a prebiotically relevant manner in order to have a valid hypothesis for life's origin.
As I said, I do not agree. I do not, simply. I think that some things are relevant. The last one, not at all. Not for the first interaction of life, and all of those, I say that we can give some explanation. It's not that easy, and I will explain a little bit later, but let's go on.
We only have time for five tonight. Polypeptides, polynucleotides, polysaccharides, the origin of specified information, and the assembly of the above components into an integrated, functional, living system, namely a cell, not merely a random mixture of these. If my opponent is unable to supply all five criteria.
If someone in the chat tells me, tell me if something is wrong with the audio or things like that. Lo dico anche in italiano: se c'è qualcosa di sbagliato, qualcosa che non va nell'audio, mi raccomando ditemelo, perché magari io non posso accorgermene mentre faccio la live. Quindi se c'è qualcosa di sgradevole, fatemelo sapere.
For life, then we're currently clueless on the origin of life. But since I don't think he'll be able to supply even one of the five, it will show that we're not merely clueless, but utterly clueless. While some would like to portray me as one of the very few people that does not accept the hyped claims of origin of life researchers, I maintain that overconfident supporters of origin of life, like my opponent, are being abandoned by the origin of life research community itself.
Citation needed, and I will show a little bit about that in some moments.
For example, Mr. Farina's own experts, whom he likes to cite, are now backing away from their own overblown claims. His often cited origin of life expert, Professor Jack Sostek, now says that aside from nature's construct of RNA, invoking of, quote, autocatalytic sets was never chemically realistic, unquote. Hence,
again, quote, I did not find the citation on on this video, so below. So I get some, at least one, but it's not relevant. I do not care what those people are saying, and I will show you why in some minutes. We are almost over. And I do care. I want to let you know that if you think about it, Tour is giving no data, is ranting about this thing. We need data, we need more data, and as for now, is giving nothing. It will give something during the it will give something during the discussion, but as for now, it's just reporting scientists saying things, and it's not really relevant. It's not.
The prebiotic relevance of autocatalytic sets crumbles. It's over, according to Professor Sostek. His often cited origin of life expert, Professor Donna Blackman, now acknowledges that there are no known prebiotically relevant autocatalytic reactions that greatly enhance chirality of a substrate. The increases are minor. So, no need to waste our time tonight on autocatalysis.
Why? Because it's not in favor of your argument. Uh, it's not true. We can get to good results through autocatalytic process. So nope, it's not true. I know of a process. It's not autocatalytic. It's mechanical that can get to homochirality, for example. But you were not saying that those things were basically a given at the start, Dr. Tur. I cannot understand your point at this point.
His own origin of life expert, Professor Stephen Benner, an enormous figure in this field, now says that any group of
It's a very important figure in the field, so we have to listen whatever he's saying. It's not how science works today. So not relevant. And I want to point that out. Just look how many, how much time is using to present those opinions. Is saying that data is important, but is just giving us opinion of people, giving them their opinion without a context, even worse.
randomly synthesized RNA molecules would afford, quote, 10 million or 100 million more molecules that catalyze the destruction of RNA, unquote, than
1 million molecules, a lot? Really not. If you know what are you talking about. 1 million molecules are very few, actually. When we talk about moles, we are talking about much, much more bigger number. So, yeah, mm, I think it's very clever tour doing so. Uh, but I think his method works only with people without any knowledge of the topic. And I will explain a little bit better in the next episodes. But yeah, he does use science. He is a very good chemist, but is using his knowledge in a very clever way. Because let's be real, we are not clueless about the topic, and I think he does know it, and how he can deal with this. Yeah, of course, he will use his knowledge of chemistry to basically beat Dave, because Dave is not as well prepared as him, and he knows, and he will use it to his advantage. So thanks to for the comment. Anyway,
catalyze the copying of themselves, and quote, this will never give you life. unquote. Hence, the relevance of random RNA to make copies of itself bites the dust. It's over, according to Professor.
It's over, says a guy. Even though we have hypotheses for it, and as Dave will explain it later, we do have a process on clay, but it's over.
Benner himself. Origin of life expert James, Professor James Shapiro now writes, certain questions like the origins of the first living cells currently have no credible.
Again, the first cell, the first uh, living things will be not a cell, not not for sure. We can have different kind of organisms, as I said, so irrelevant.
Scientific answers, unquote. Evolution kingpin, Professor Richard Dawkins now says, quote, we know little more than Darwin did about how it got started in the first place. We have no evidence bearing upon.
Darwin is not a researcher on the origin of life, and I do disagree. I think that we do know much more. So uh, creationists do not understand these kind of things. When we listen to a professor, of course, if someone is an expert on the field, you must listen to him, but you can and you must criticize him. So it's not like that because someone somewhere without a context said something like that, I will stop to argue for the topic. It does not work in that way. But I think that Tour knows it and does not care because his objective is not to reach us, but to reach his followers. I think it's pretty clear, to me at least.
Upon the momentous event that was the start of evolution on this planet, unquote. My opponent's favorite origin of life expert, Professor Lee Cronin, now writes and says on multiple occasions that, quote, origin of life research is a scam, unquote, and, quote, there are lots of layers to the scam, unquote. A scam.
Yeah, I will address it in a couple of minutes. We are almost over.
Means a dishonest scheme or a fraud. It's beautiful. It's as if Professor Lee Cronin has been scientifically born again. Mr. Farina, I respect your courage to be here tonight. It's too bad that origin of life researchers are not here themselves to defend their own data. Maybe they know the shallowness of their own research, while the less informed cannot assess the shallowness. I'm looking forward to seeing the data with chemical specificity. That's what I will be asking.
Yes, and what kind of data do you give to Dave? Because I've seen nothing.
Of you, so I'm telling you up front. Not the overblown titles, not their outlandish claims, not the.
And if someone in the chat wants to say something, if I'm getting something wrong, just point that out because I'm here for this. Basically, it's not like I'm an expert. Tour is much a more competent chemist than me. I just have a bachelor. He has a PhD. So if I'm getting something wrong, just tell me.
Once upon a time, over a million years stories, but the data to propose a valid hypothesis to the 5 criteria needed to build a living cell, thereby overcoming our cluelessness on origin of life. Thank you.
You are not talking about cluelessness. It's not like we don't have a clue. We do, but Tour is moving the goalpost. Now is asking for basically everything at once. Show us all the process to get to life. It's basically impossible. It's in a debate for sure, because you cannot write all that down. And now I will show you something because I'm prepared for it. First of all the citations used by Dr. James Tour, I did get to basically the citation, the quote, and it's on Twitter. Just think about it. Is arguing on Twitter, and also it's not meaning what is telling us. Basically, is complaining about how researchers are doing research because they are researching small topics inside the abiogenesis problem, and Lynn Cronin is saying, yeah, no one is really getting there as for now, but just because the problem is much more complex than just getting to know a process. We have much work to do, and it's true, but it's not like researcher in the field are scammers. Okay, it's a tweet is doing to stir his audience. It's not like is really telling, yeah, all those people are scammers. It's not like that. Okay, and it's important to understand that, because if you just listen to Tour is telling you that basically abiogenesis is done for. We got nothing. It's not true. People working on it are not scammers, of course, and you should not cite someone from quote someone from Twitter if you are doing a science debate. Good for Tour. I think it was a good presentation. He does know how get Dave angry, and I think he's doing a pretty good job at that. I want to show you something because Tour is saying to Dave basically, yeah, you need to show me all the specific reaction. We are talking about proteins for the most part, and look at that. Those are proteins. You can see something because I do. Those are not formulas. Why? Because proteins are huge. To show all the process inside the protein, you need to do a very huge work. Here you can see all the structures. So it's not like no formulas, basically. They are too huge to have simple chemical formulas. Is impossible to do so? No, it's not impossible, but you just think about it. Just think to represent on a board all these things. It's basically impossible. And Tour knows it. And he wants to capitalize on it. To be clear, it's not impossible to get proteins in nature. Tour will say something about it, and in a very clever way, because it's talking about compounds with side chains that can react. So you need a catalyst to avoid those side chain to react in a very inappropriate way. Yes, but in the start of all things, you do not need those amino acid. You need just proteins. Right now, we do have 20 amino acids and a huge set of proteins, but we are not talking about prebiotic health. Okay, it's why Tor is clever in this. Is giving us very specific formulas, very specific processes that he knows is impossible to show, basically. But abiogenesis field is not that easy, and he knows it, and it's why he's doing that. He knows that Dave is not able to give us in a debate all those things, and so is getting Dave in his trap. And I will analyze the opening of Dave. I'm not very happy with, with his work. I want to be very clear about it. Not a good look, if you ask me. Why? It did not do a good job. He fall in basically tourist trap, and I think it was not a good thing. Someone has some questions. There was not so much in terms of science in this first part. I do not agree on cellular life. Oh, I can show you. But Wikipedia is not a good place to for research, but it's okay to show you a couple of things. But as you can see, non-cellular life exists. So all 1/5 of tour premise is completely wrong, and I can show you in a couple of seconds of research on Wikipedia. I mean, it's quite huge, isn't it? So it does exist. Of course, most of them are viruses, but it's not like we do have just cellular life. Non-cellular life does exist. Now, Dr. Tour, why in your presentation you do get to cellular life as a point? Our ancestor, the Luca, was a cell, yes, but it's not like it was the first life. A very grave mistake, if you ask me. It's even a mistake. Tour is way too much knowledgeable on the topic to do such a mistake. I think it was done on purpose because he does need the cell, because the cell is quite problematic to get. But if you think so, if you get through life without a cell, so without homeostasis, without a bunch of things, you can get to natural selection. And once you get there, you will have a mechanism to get to cells and things like that. And that's a huge one. I do not think that Dave gave that to her. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but I would have told him right as soon the discussion started, like, yes, Mr. Tour, life, it's not like that starts with a cell. How can you tell that? Because we do have non-cellular life, and it's more simple than cellular life. So it's a good hypothesis to say that whole started from something like this and not a cell. Any opinions? And se qualcuno, perché so che qualcuno in chat, se qualcuno anche vuole fare domande in italiano, risponderò anche a quelle. Parlo in italiano perché so che ci sono anche persone che parlano italiano in chat. So, for both my Italian and international audience, if someone wants to give me some questions to say something, I could, in theory, even give you permission to open on the stream if you want to. If not, I will close the stream. Per chi magari non capisce l'inglese, sto dicendo: qualcuno ha domande? Se qualcuno ha domande le faccio in chat, e addirittura, se volete, posso darvi il link per entrare nello stream. Magari pubblico il link, se qualcuno vuole entrare do qualche minuto e poi vediamo. Okay. If someone wants to enter the stream, please go on. You just need to click the link and you will get here with me. Even if you are creationist, do not worry about that. I never bite, usually. So, I think we are done. Maybe I will say, of course, for all the people there, I will do other episodes on that. I think that this one was quite long, actually, and I will cover all the parts of the debate. I've never seen the debate in all its length, so it will be actually a reaction in some points, and I hope that you will be there with me next time. So, have a good night. I think that for someone it's not even night, it's the middle of the day, basically. But here it's night, 10 o'clock, basically, PM. 10 p.m. So I will wish you a very good day or night and see you next time.